All right. Welcome back to Biashara Tuesday. You're catching us on the right at the right time on the right channel at KUTV Kenya, on all social platforms at KUTV Kenya. At Richard_Kenya is how my social media handle reads. So if you make sure that you are, getting there, tagging me using the hashtag Rise Today, I'll be able to see that. On Facebook, where we are streaming live, and we have been since 7 a.m. We will be doing that until 10 in the morning. So if you're walking out of the house, tune into that, by the way, and also give us your comment. Wacha nisome wale kidogo ambao wamekuwa wakisema lazima usome nini yangu feedback. So Isa Boy Kenya anasema niko logged in. Alikuwa logged in from 7 in the morning. Now I'm really happy that you're tuning in. Furniture Guru. Not Furniture Guru. Nice. Tuned in. Thank you. Tell us where you're tuning in from as well. Avush Banadilod, good morning. Biashara Tuesday live. It's so cold and rainy. We are glad to get the updates here. Thank you for tuning in. Avush Banadilod. Victoria, morning wase huku hakuna stima. Please inform kila mtu. Huni mtu wa Ruaka is next to Rivers Mall. Watu wa Ruaka poleni sana for kupoteza stima. KPFC just testing mvua ikitokea how watanua aje hiyo mambo. So pole sana, but thank you for tuning in and making time for the show. If you're tuning in on Twitter pia unaweza tag pale and we'll be able to see your comments. I'll see all these comments later. Mesh Mora, seeing La Patron Boina, Emperor Sheikh anasema huyu mzee Richard Okenye nasikia Al Jazeera wanamdai. Anyway, I'm watching you kama bado uko Kenya. Thank you very much for tuning in. La Patron, Emperor Sheikh. More comments I'll be reading even as we go on with the show. Now, away from the newspapers, which we just spoke about, the headlines, nini, let's get to matters of business and current developments in what is happening in the world. We know that in a few weeks' time, Safaricom and M-Pesa will be looking at a split, and a few weeks also ago, Airtel Kenya and Airtel Money did make that split. So the fintech space in Kenya is growing, and we can see that even as the financial sector of most of these telcos is split from the communication side of it. Those are some of the developments happening in fintech in that regard, but there's also much more which is happening: mobile loan apps, digital loan apps, and also innovations in the fintech space. All this is happening in the cyberspace. And I'm sitting down with Willy Macharia, seeing him for the first time since I last saw him in Cape Town a few years ago, a graduate of masters in computer science. If I'm not wrong, I'm giving him a chance to make a correction if I have done anything that is not correct there in introducing him. But he's an expert in cybersecurity, in fintech, in matters of technology overall. He's well versed, and we'll be putting all that into perspective. Welcome, Willy, my friend, and also an expert, Willy Macharia. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Richard. I'm so happy to have joined you here at KUTV. My name is Willy Macharia. I call myself I'm a technologist. Currently, I'm a software engineer at Electron Payments. Electron Payments is a fintech company in Cape Town. And we're in the world of payment. On the other side, I'm the lead organizer at the Nairobi AI community. Yeah.
All right. You are currently working for a fintech startup, as you said there, in Cape Town. So yes. How different will you say, by the way, now that you've been working in that period? How different will you say the fintech space is in Cape Town compared to Kenya?
Okay. I guess when we look at fintech, we look at different sectors of fintech. Mm-hmm. So we look at digital lending, we look at payments, we look at remittances, we look at bill payments, and we also look at insurance tech, and also we look at invest tech, and also saving tech is coming. So what I have seen mostly in Cape Town, we have the whole sector that is fintech goes around the areas of payment, the areas of remittances, and the areas of payments mostly. But in Kenya, the space is usually payments and also digital lending. We don't have a lot of digital lenders in Cape Town or South Africa, but in Kenya you can imagine that the whole fintech space, digital lending is counting at 30%.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah, and I remember maybe that is the reason why yesterday, CBK made that statement that they are going to work with financial institutions to make sure that they reduce 50% of the
non-performing loans.
Yeah, non-performing loans. So,
right.
But the kind of remittances now, remittance is another sector of fintech that involve sending money, from one country to another. You are not paying. There is a difference between a payment
and a remittance.
Now, in Kenya we don't have remittance. Sijui kama ni pesa hatuko nayo nyingi. Tunahitaji pesa nyingi. Yeah, we are not sending money out of Kenya. So if you want to send money out of Kenya, you go through the traditional way of using the SWIFT. You go to Equity, you go to your bank, and then you do SWIFT and stuff. But in Cape Town or South Africa and other countries such as the US or Europe, they have remittances, and that's why you see actually the Central Bank of Kenya usually announce that this is the total amount of remittance that has come to Kenya, but not
that is going out.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in matters of fintech and cybersecurity, of course, all of those operating in maybe more or less the same space, right?
Yes.
How would you say cybersecurity matters? Why does cybersecurity matter?
I think let's face it. Everything now is digital. All our personal life are digital. Google Photos, you're transacting online, you're studying online. And what we need, you need to be aware that you are interacting in a virtual space, and this virtual space has enemies, or who we call scammers. Cybersecurity, I can explain it, basically with three components. You have the technology, you have the user. So the user is trying to use the technology, but you have scammers who want to sit between the technology and the user. Right. You get what I mean? So, but the problem that usually comes is you can't see the scammer. If it is on the land, you can see an enemy. You can see them, and you can see this is a person who want to attack me. But in the cyberspace, these scammers you can't see them. They are virtual. You can't see them. But we need to make you aware that they exist. They exist. Such that when you're opening your mobile application, let's say a fintech app that is for payment, or even your mobile money sending application, we need you to be aware that the PIN that you're using to access that mobile application should be strong, such that the scammers don't sit between you and the technology that you're trying to use.
Right.
Yeah.
There's, of course, so much that is happening in matters of cybersecurity. As Willy has mentioned there, that gap between the user and the technology is what we are trying to see. How do you make it safe between you as a user and the technology you're trying to use? How is it safe for you to transact through M-Pesa? How is it safe for you to log on to the website of your lender, of your bank? How do you access your social media accounts? And in between, as you do that, is your personal information leaking? Is your personal data leaking? As we've said there, it's time that at this time, so much is happening. Most of our multimedia information is online, in the cloud, Google Photos. And we've seen situations where, at some time, there's a scammer who might get your personal information and use it for personal, identity swap. We've seen SIM card swap fraud, which is happening, and something that Safaricom is trying to combat. As we've seen recently there, the strict regulations which have been provided by the Communication Authority to ensure that every single Kenyan is re-registering their SIM cards, of course, to prevent that SIM card swap fraud. And those are just some of the issues which are happening in the cybersecurity space, and we're trying to ensure that kila mtu ako aware na ako rada. Willy, now on your end, what would you say are some of the biggest cybersecurity threats that you have noticed in Kenya?
I think one of the biggest threats that I have identified is lack of awareness. We can, I by profession I'm a software engineer, and a software engineer, one of our tasks is to develop applications in such a way they are secure. But there is so much we can do as the technologies. Much of the things need to be done by the user, because the user is the one who is using the technology. It is not the person who created the technology who is trying to use the technology. So the user is the one who need to be aware. And one of the biggest threats I have seen is social engineering and also lack of awareness about cybersecurity threats out there. For example, and this is something common, many people, we have a considerable percentage of people who are still using the year of birth as the M-Pesa PIN. You can imagine. And not only for M-Pesa PIN, even the banking apps, they are using the year of birth.
1996 September.
Exactly. So what does a scammer do? A scammer is going to come and social engineer you and ask you, "Hi Richard, how are you doing? Which year were you born?" And you say, "Okay, I was born in 1986." And you say, "Oh, we were in the same year." But you are not realizing that this scammer want to social engineer you and get information from you. You get what I mean? So one of the biggest threats is social engineering, which leads to something very technical called identity theft. Remember, I said cybersecurity is the technology, the user, and the scammer who want to sit in between. So the scammer is trying to steal the identity of the user
as they access the technology.
And now they are going to purport
to be the user.
I'm the authentic user to use the technology.
Right.
So one of the things that we need to do is to make people aware. Do a lot of information sharing. Raise this awareness and help the users to prevent themselves from social engineering.
Right. Yeah. Willy Macharia there is telling me that the biggest threat, as the President Uhuru Kenyatta used to say, that security starts with you. And therefore here, of course, saying that the biggest cybersecurity threat right now is awareness. You are not aware, first of all, of the kind of issues or the kind of threats which are there between you as a user and the technology that you're trying to access. The one thing also that he mentioned next is social engineering. Social engineering happens where of course the scammer or the threat that is there in the cyberspace is trying to use personal information, try and piece bits here and there. What is your favorite color? What is your favorite pet? What is your year of birth? And those are mostly the security questions which you get to be asked when you're trying to reset your password or trying to retrieve your password or trying to retrieve your information. And they can easily do that and get to access the technology purporting as yourself. Identity theft, and that's where it comes in. That's where the issues of SIM card swap fraud come in. When you lose your phone, someone gets that SIM card and they finally manage to engineer their way around and present themselves to M-Pesa or to Safaricom as you, as Willy, as John, as Richard, if you're out there. Now, Willy, you've mentioned there that one of those things we need to do is to raise awareness, to spread some of information as we are doing now on this channel. So in that spirit of raising awareness, how does someone keep their sensitive data secure, especially financial data, as they are accessing these online spaces?
I think if you want to keep your, the sensitive data here we are talking about personal identifiable information. And personal identifiable information is usually your identity document. Something that I didn't talk about in cybersecurity. There are two things in cybersecurity, and that is authenticity and encryption. Authenticity is the process of identifying someone. As I go back, when you are interacting with technology, the technology want to know, is this the real Richard I'm interacting with? So they are going to ask you for your date of birth, your address. They are going to ask you for your ID number. They are going to ask you for your mobile number. So all this personal identifiable information, you need to keep them secure as much as you can to avoid this information being accessed by the scammers. Because the moment they access it, they are going to sit between you and the technology, and they are going to prove to the technology that they are real you. You get what I mean?
Right.
So most of the time, when we come to the issue of passwords, it is usually good to use your mother tongue as your password.
Oh, okay.
Because it is very difficult for a scammer to crack
Something that is in your mother tongue.
In your mother tongue. For example, personally, I'm a Kikuyu. If one of my password is
Nekohorera amani.
you get what I mean? There is no scammer out there who is going to think this password and be able to crack it. If you're creating your PIN, for sometime I advise people to use, I come also from a mathematical background. I ask them to use formulas. For example, 7 times 8 is 56.
Right.
So your PIN can be 7856.
All right.
There is no one who can be able to think about that.
Social engineer.
To social engineer. If it's 88, 8 times 8 is 64, 88, 64, or 8 plus 8 is 16, 88, 16.
Right.
Is your PIN. So through that, you are able to create strong password, strong pins, and through this, you are able to make it harder for
someone to access data from you.
Yeah.
All right, definitely. Now, the differences you've mentioned there that you've seen between Kenya and other markets in South Africa, Europe, and the US, in terms of fintech maturity and gaps, how would you say we can improve? First of all, maybe what would you credit the advancements we've made so far in the fintech space in Kenya? I've said there, of course, the M-Pesa has gone global, and it's a conversation we've had all over the world. And mobile payment is a thing. Digital lenders are also very successful around here. That is a success, maybe. And also there are a few gaps which you've noticed. How can we bridge these gaps, and also what will you credit the success to?
One thing we should be able to realize is that in the advent of M-Pesa, it brought so many fintech or so many other fintech companies. M-Pesa is actually seen as a parent fintech, and the rest are children's. Because it is through M-Pesa that digital lending, which is 30% of the total fintech
space in Kenya,
it has been enabled through M-Pesa. If you look at the payment, Lipa na M-Pesa, or even Till ni Till, or even if you look, beginning of this year, I got a chance to attend the Central Bank National Payment System launch 2022, I think, to 2025, and they were talking about the interoperability of these till numbers, and making it easy for the customers or for the end users. So you can see M-Pesa has enabled that. The other thing is with Kenya, last week or this week, the president said Kenya should be getting a smartphone less than 5,000 Kenya shillings.
And they're hoping to produce that by next year.
So you can see we have a lot of penetration of the mobile devices. And these talk about the infrastructure. And this infrastructure is very important because you are able to enable this fintech space grow. We have, I think Nairobi is rated as one of the city in Africa, or even in the greater region of Europe and Eastern Sub-Saharan Africa. And with the best internet connectivity. I think it's because of the Google fiber that is already here in Kenya. And you can see this optic fiber that is being laid and the internet penetration. I think nowadays Wi-Fi has become a very common thing across apartments, and all these things, they have come to enable, fintech. Something else that will shock you is that Kenya is one of the countries with the highest users of cryptocurrencies platforms.
In the world?
In the world.
Yes.
You can imagine. And this is enabled. Obviously, you can't access these applications without the internet.
Right.
So obvious internet infrastructure is an underlying enabler
for the success of
this fintech.
Right.
Some of the gaps that I have realized with our fintechs, we are still very far from interbanks payment. If you bank with a certain bank and I bank with another bank, it shouldn't take more than 24 hours to clear that transaction. And that is a gap that exists. In South Africa, they are coming with something called instant payment. It is out there in the media. And they are talking how they will enable quick payments between one bank
and the other.
In Kenya, I think we still need to get there. But also, you should also look at it, from a different perspective. when you come to other countries, for example, they say in South Africa, a new player, for example, South Africa, they don't use mobile money. They don't use mobile money. They use the card payments. So whenever a new player comes there in fintech, they have to comply with what the banks want.
Okay.
But now when you come to Kenya, you have to comply with what the mobile money operators want. I don't know whether you can see that.
I see. The regulations in Kenya are geared in a way to work with the telcos, while in South Africa is for the banks.
Is to work with the banks.
Okay.
So those are some of the differences that exist there.
All right. Thank you very much, Willy, for putting all of that into perspective. I'm seeing that it's 9 in the morning, and it will be very unfair for me to not ask you a question from the audience.
Okay.
So let me just move away from my questions and ask you here. I see Mtoto wa Mariam asking online, and Sema, you mentioned Nairobi AI community. What do they do?
Okay, yeah. So with Nairobi AI community, it's a community of technologists. Here we have developers, here we have product designers, we have beginners, or we call ourselves as a community where everyone who is enthusiastic about technology come and we are able to network, create events, and through that you are able to get a platform where you can network with other people, because we say through collaboration you create innovation.
Right.
So when we offer you an opportunity to join Nairobi AI community, you come there and you meet people, you collaborate with them, and you create project together and you innovate together.
Right. Yeah. Finally, Willy, on that camera,
yes,
how can people keep themselves up to date with developments in cybersecurity and fintech? We know you're an active player and a participant in that space. So for you, it will be really easy because that's what you do as work. So for someone who is not doing that as work, because we don't want anyone to say, hey, technology linipita, sikuwa najua, or being ignorant in one way or another, how can they keep, as a normal Kenyan, akwe aware of the opportunities, of the advantages, of the developments in the space of cybersecurity and in fintech?
I think that is a very good question, Richard. You know, one thing I would like to tell the audience is, if you want to keep yourself updated, update yourself with authentic news. Look for verified pages on Twitter that disseminate technology information. For example, 2 months ago, there was a huge attack on Uber. You know, the Uber system were hijacked, and I think many of you are able to see that. Look for those channels that are verified, that bring those kind of news, and also they are able to give you advice on how to enable yourself to keep yourself online. The other thing is, follow people on LinkedIn pages, people who are cybersecurity experts. Follow them, see the kind of see the kind of content they are sharing out there, and that is going to help you. You know, it's going to help you or to keep you updated with the news on how to keep yourself safe online. The other thing is, I always tell people, is common sense. Because you can't tell me how you can't go you can't go online and see someone offering jobs, and then they're asking you to pay some amount of money.
And you pay.
And then you pay. And then you come and ask us, how do you keep yourself safe online? Sometimes we tell you, it's just common sense. Because that is it.
Yes.
Because we don't want you to be scammed online.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Look for authenticity of the news, dig deeper, and then you are able to secure yourself.
Right.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Willy Macharia, expert in cybersecurity, very good friend of mine. If you find yourself stranded in Cape Town, he is bound to help you out. I can say that from personal experience.
Yeah.
All right, taking that short break here again, coming back with Jorin Wanini, and we are discussing matters of agribusiness and healthy living. Ulikula nini breakfast leo? One thing I always ask people here is what their favorite meals are, because I want to see kama unakula healthy ama ulibugia pizza asubuhi na soda. Willy, what's your favorite food?
Beef matoke.
Beef matoke. A good one. Love it. Ugali chicken here. Going for a break and then coming back on Biashara Tuesday. Don't go.